Hey ladies, thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, my name is Mitzi and I'm a paper curly. And if you're a returner, well, welcome back. Okay, gals, today is the day. Today we are going to talk about sex. And goodness gracious, am I going to be creepy? Am I going to be explicit? Absolutely not. But are we going to have a conversation? You bet we are. You bet we're going to have a conversation because, gals, we are women of a certain age. So I'm going to say that I think we've all done it. We've all done it. We've all had the sex. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it, in a way that I think that we need to talk about it, to have a discussion. Because, girls, it is a discussion that I have with my girlfriends. I have with my girlfriends, whether they're in real life girlfriends or online girlfriends. We have talked about it. So I'm just going to come to you today and we're going to talk about it here. We're going to talk about, goodness gracious, are we still doing it? Are we still wanting to do it? And if we're not, why? Why has that changed? Because girls, I get it. Hormones, sex drive, it changes with age. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say what really changes is our relationships. And that is a key factor to why possibly, if you're not having it or not like you used to have it, that's why you're not having it. Not because of your sex drive, but because of your relationship. And then also we're going to talk about dating. We're going to talk about dating and how, that whole thing kind of plays out at this age. Because, yes, I am married now. I was single. I was single as a woman of a certain age. I was a little bit younger, granted, but goodness, I was single and I was wondering, how does this play out? How does this play out now that I'm at a certain age and not, young and horny? That's really how it worked out. That is really, the basics. Okay, so let's get to our quote and then we'll get to our prompts. And then, let me just say, do I have a story? Well, I might have a little one, just a little one. And girls, Mr. Paper was shaking in his boots. He was shaking in his boots when he saw that I was going to be talking about sex. Because he thought, oh gosh, girl, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? What are you going to say? Are you going to talk about us? Are you going to talk about us? And I'm like, babe, don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. But yeah, he's a little bit worried. He's a little bit worried, but I promise, I'm not going to be graphic. I'm not going to be creepy. I'm just going to come with a little bit of a story just to, make an example, a comparison, so to say. Okay, so let's get to the quote. So of all the different people that I could take a quote from and use it today, I picked out Sue Johansson. And I don't know if you're familiar with who Sue Johansson was, but she was a nurse out of Toronto that in the 1980s, she started in the 70s and then it turned into a show in the 80s, but she had what was called the Sunday Night Sex Show. And I don't know if you listened to it or you watched it, but girls, that is where I learned. Goodness, I want to say learned everything about sex, because when I was growing up, my mom didn't tell me anything. In fact, it was my dad who brought me out to a pancake breakfast to tell me about the birds and the bees. And goodness, for decades later, I was afraid to go out to eat with him because it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable. So yes, Sue Johansson is who I actually learned about sex from. So this is a quote from her. So let's get to it. So the quote is, "Sex is one of the most honest languages we have, a form of emotional truth." And that's by Sue Johansson. Okay, girls. So that is the quote. Now let's get to the prompts, because granted, I understand some of you might be feeling a little bit uncomfortable. And so if all you want is, the intro and the prompts, I'm going to give them to you. But girls, let me just warn you. I picked out not only 3, but I picked out 6. I picked out 6 different prompts because I understand that we're all, walking this path uniquely to ourselves. And so I wanted to just, have a bunch of them out there so that whatever your journey is through, this sexual journey of yours, that there will be something for everybody. Because goodness, I'm a married lady now, but like I said before, I was a single girl, and I know that there are some single girls out there. So we're going to talk about it all. We are going to talk about it all, or at least I'm going to try to touch bases on all the different things out there. Okay, so the first ones that I have are prompts that deal with exploring sexual self-discovery and your history. Okay, so the first prompt is, what were the messages I received about sex growing up, and which ones do I want to let go of? And girls, I get it. We're, women of a certain age. Should we have let go of some of those messages? Yeah, we should have. But have we? Maybe not. Maybe not. Okay. And then the second one is about dating, attraction, and pleasure. And goodness, just stick with me, okay? Stick with me. So the prompts for this, I have two. And the first one is, what are some turn-offs that make me feel disconnected from sex? See how I spun that? What are some turn-offs that make me feel disconnected from sex? And then the second one is, what are my favorite non-sexual forms of physical affection? Because girls, I get it. Some of us, our libido has gone down. We are not, young and feeling sexy all the time. So that's what that prompt is for. And then the last category is navigating relationships and intimacy. And I have 3 prompts here because, like I said before, we are all on our own journeys here. So I want to make sure that there's something for everyone to, maybe make you think. Is this me? Does this apply to me? And maybe it doesn't. But if it does, these prompts are for you. So the first one is, what is one way I can improve communication about my sexual desires? Because gals, I know that there are some women that have been married to the same man for a long, long time. And like with anything else, things can get a little stagnant at times. And if you are still wanting to have a fulfilling sexual relationship, then it is very important that you are proactive in having your needs met that way. The second one is, how do I feel about initiating sex and what would make it easier? And the reason why I put this one down here is because, girls, we grew up in a time where we were supposed to possibly be submissive to our husbands or to our partners, that there was real ideas about us and our sexuality and how we were supposed to navigate through that. And a lot of that has changed. And if you have not changed with that, then girls, I really want to encourage you to really be proactive in making that change for you to have a fulfilling sex life, if that is what you are wanting. And then the third one has more to do with dating, or possibly just relationships, companionship at this time. And this is, what boundary do I need to set or reinforce in my dating life? Because girls, I was single, 14, 15 years ago, and I realized that my desires, my needs for what I wanted in a partner were a lot different than what they might have been, in my 20s or my 30s even. So those are the prompts. I hope that something speaks to you to reflect on, to think on, and then write down in your notebook. Okay, so the rest of you that want to continue on with me, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank yourself for being okay with it, being comfortable with having this conversation, because yes, I think that it is very important to have this conversation. Will it maybe make you feel a little bit uncomfortable? Sure, of course. For all of time, talking about sex has been a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm here just to have the conversation, and let you know that it does not have to be uncomfortable. Okay, so if you're sticking with me, what time is it? Well, you know what time it is. It is story time. Okay, so we all know that Mr. Paper was a little bit apprehensive about me coming on here talking about this subject. And goodness, he doesn't have to, because I'm not going to tell stories about him. No, I'm not. I'm just going to talk about it in general, about having, what it means to have a sex life when you are at our age, women of a certain age. And yes, I understand that we are all in our unique situations with either long-term partners or we're dating. So yeah, we're all on our own journeys. However, all that said, it would be, I don't think it would be healthy if we didn't talk about it a little bit, because as women of a certain age, we are still sexual beings. We are still sexual beings because we are women, because we are human, and that is just part of our makeup. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about, if you're having sex, why? Why are we still having sex? And I don't mean that to be like, why? It gets gross. No, I mean like, why are you still having it? Well, I would say that you're probably still having it because you have connection with whoever you are with. And that is great. I mean, that is winner, winner, chicken dinner as far as I'm concerned. That means that you have a great sex life if you are still wanting to have sex with your long-term partner. And I'm not talking about sex out of, because that's just what marriage is about. I'm talking about having sex because you're really, you're digging on that person that you're still with after all these years. And then, I want to touch bases on dating, what dating means right now as a woman of a certain age. And yes, I'm married now, but I was single. In my 40s. And I'm assuming that 40s, 50s, 60s, dating is still going to kind of be the same. And we are in a new world of dating. Thank goodness. I just have to be honest and say that I am so grateful that I'm in a long-term relationship, that I am married, because I don't even know how I would navigate that. I just don't know if I would even have the energy for that. But yes, we all are looking for connection. We all are looking for companionship. And so I do want to touch on that as well, and how that deals with sex, or perhaps even the lack of sex, and how to navigate that. So, okay, why are we still wanting sex, or possibly just over it? So that's what we're going to talk about here today. So why might you be over it? And I know that sounds kind of dark to say I'm over it, but the reason why I say that is because I know women that are just over it. So they say, I do not have, that desire anymore, that desire, that need, for whatever reason. But I'm going to break it down into 3 reasons why that might be where you're at. And one is just, menopause and our hormones. Our hormones are shifting. It's going crazy. We're losing our estrogen, we're losing our testosterone, and that is where our libido comes from. That is just medical facts. And then there's just the physical and health factors that we're dealing with as we get older. It could be that you're on some type of medication, that it's just a side effect. It took away any sexual desire, any libido that you had. That is just, side effects of some medications that we have to be on as we get older. Or it could just be, real simple that, gosh, our bodies have changed. And whether that is through motherhood or whether that is just through, menopause, our bodies have changed. And when we don't feel good about our bodies, then that can be a factor. And then 3, just plain old lifestyle. Whether you're in a long-term relationship that over time things have, you get into that comfortable place where it's more about companionship, not so much about, the sex factor, the sexiness of being a couple. Those are all different things that really play a part of how we feel when it comes to sex as we get older. And when it comes to lifestyle factors, we could even break it down even deeper than that. Because 1, let's talk about fatigue. Oh my goodness, girls. I am tired. I am tired, I am tired, I am tired. I am not sleeping well at night when I do sleep. And so when I don't sleep, goodness, I am tired. I am tired physically, but more than that, I am tired emotionally. I am tired emotionally because girls, we are what they call the sandwich generation, meaning that we are still dealing with kids, adult kids, and we're also dealing with elderly parents. And that is just a lot on us. And so what comes along with that? What comes along with that is a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. Because once again, like we talked about earlier this week, if you watch those videos, we deal with a lot of stress and anxiety because there is so much on our plate. There is so much on our plate. And then lastly, it would not be okay for me not to bring this up. But sometimes the decline of us being sexual beings really just comes down to the lack of a partner. The lack of a partner because maybe you were married or in a long-term relationship and you're not in that relationship anymore. Or maybe you're in a relationship and you've been in a relationship, a long-term relationship. But let's face it, gals, I mean, we see the ads out there. Sometimes men have some physical issues as they get older. And so maybe that is just, maybe sex, the actual act of sex in that way has been taken off the table. It has just been taken off the table. And so because you had to redefine the intimacy, in your relationship, because of physical factors, or maybe you just don't want to put yourself out there for the fear of what would feel like rejection. And then lastly, it could be that you were in a long-term relationship and now you don't have that anymore because of widowhood. So I just have to put all that out there because I really want this to be something that everybody can see themselves in. Okay, so now that we've talked about being in a relationship and possibly the decline of the sexuality in that relationship, let's talk to the single gals. The gals that are not in relationships, but possibly you might be wanting to be in a relationship. Well, girls, what I'm going to say about that is go for it. Go for it. If you're wanting a relationship and a relationship where sex is a part of that, then, there are the apps. There are all the apps out there. And do I know much about them? I don't, because I am in a long-term relationship. However, that said, I do have some girlfriends that are single and they talk about these apps. And girls, there are guys out there. There are guys out there looking for girls just like you. Girls, women of a certain age, there is an appeal to us. Because we are more comfortable with who we are. We know what we want. And so for you girlies out there that are looking for boyfriends, relationships, whatever you want to call it, they are out there. It's just about having the courage to put yourself out there. But then, girls, I'm talking about this because somebody reached out and said, you know what, I would really be interested in having this as part of the conversation. And that is, what if you're looking for a relationship in the sense of companionship, but for you at your age, you are just saying, you know what, I'm not looking for sex. I'm not looking for sex to be a part of that companionship, a part of that relationship. And what I'm going to say about that for you girls is, guess what? There are guys that are going to be A-okay with that as well. Because as we get older, their sex drives go down as well. And like I said before, it's just about having the courage to put yourself out there and then just being real upfront from the start that what you're looking for is companionship. And like we talked about yesterday, yes, intimacy and sex two different subjects, but the one thing that actually bridges them together is the idea of companionship. And so, if that is what you're looking for, guess what? If you put yourself out there and somebody, comes into your life and you're upfront about what you're looking for and they're not into that, then boom, move on to the next person. Because I promise you that there is somebody out there for you looking for what you want. You just have to be real upfront about what you want. So if we want to circle back around to this, let's just be honest. When it comes to sex, it is about connection. It is about connection that makes us want to have it in the first place, to be connected to someone in that intimate sexual way. And as we get older, our needs to be fulfilled that way in a relationship, in a connection, is just less important for a lot of people, a lot of women. And goodness, guess what? You can still have a really great relationship without that type of connection if you have good communication, because that is the basis of all good relationships, is the communication. And so when I come on here and I say me and Mr. Paper have a great sex life, it is because we have such great communication. And that is something that was just that was a hard red line for me, is that I had to have a relationship with communication the second time around. And so that is why we have such a, for us, fulfilling sex life, because we have great communication on what our needs are, what our wants are, what our desires are. And girls, how do we do this? Well, for us, just to a little bit behind the scenes for us, and it's not going to get graphic here, I'm just going to explain. For us, we have decided that what works for us is what we call the 72-hour intimacy rule. And what I mean by that is that every 72 hours, we make the conscious decision, a voluntary decision, to connect to each other. Now, does that mean sex? Sometimes that means sex, because I know for him that is a very, intimate way, an important way for him to feel connected to me. Does it mean a foot rub for me? Yeah. Sometimes it just means a foot rub for me, because goodness, a foot rub feels good. A foot rub feels really, really good. And for me, I just need a touch, a physical touch. For me, it doesn't always mean sex. But for him, a lot of the times, let's be honest, a lot of the times that means sex to him. And so, because I want his needs to be fulfilled as much as I need my needs to be fulfilled, and sometimes that just means a really good foot rub, we make the decision to come together and fulfill each other's needs. It is about reconnecting so that we don't have emotional disconnect. Because that is what, is going to ruin a relationship, is the emotional disconnect. And sometimes the easiest way to get back to emotional reconnection is a physical reconnection. So that's what I have to say about sex. I don't think that I was creepy. I don't think that, I was graphic or anything. I just wanted to have a conversation about where we're at as women of a certain age in our journey along our sexuality in relationships, our sexuality in maybe the lack of sexuality. I think it's just a conversation that, if we're honest with ourselves, that needs to be talked about, needs to be thought about. Maybe something that I said gives you a different perspective. Maybe it's the perspective of, hey, you know what? My needs have changed. There's valid reasons why they have changed, and I can be okay with that. I can feel like, nothing's wrong with me. This is just part of the evolution of, sexuality in our lives. Maybe it's about, hey, you know what? my husband still has needs or my partner still has needs, and how can I maybe be a little bit more open to that? Whatever it is, whatever you got from this, having this conversation, then that is the reason why I thought that it was important in this series to come in and talk about it. Okay, so let's get back to those prompts. Hopefully there's something there that you can reflect on. You can reflect on and then write something down in your journal to then close the book and then start fresh again tomorrow with new perspective in your mind. So we had a lot of different prompts, so I'm just going to go quickly over them. So the first one, it deals with exploring sexual rediscovery in history. What were the messages I received about sex growing up, and which ones do I want to let go of? There is dating, attraction, and pleasure, meaning what are the turn-offs that makes me feel disconnected from sex? And what are my favorite non-sexual forms of physical affection? For me, it's foot rubs. Then we have navigating relationships and intimacy. And the first one is, what is one thing or one way I can improve communication about my sexual desires? The second one was, how do I feel about initiating sex and what will make it easier? And then the third is, what boundary do I need to set or reinforce in my dating life? So out of those 6 prompts, I hope that there is something that is relatable to you. So let's just finish up real quick. Let's finish up with another quote. And the quote that I have, well, I thought it was really fitting. After talking about all of this, to just remember one thing. And this quote is by Margaret Atwood. And ironically, Margaret Atwood is the author who wrote The Handmaid's Tale, among other things. But this quote that I have, I thought it was really fitting for the discussion today. And it is, nobody dies from the lack of sex. It's the lack of love that we die from. So just remember that any relationship that we're in, at the end of the day, it should all stem from love. Okay, so that is what I have to say today. So thank you so much for joining me. If you are new to my channel, if any of this, you found value in or interest in, then I would love if you would like and subscribe so that you could come back and join us on Monday. These prompts, these topics, I do Monday through Friday. On the weekends, we just have fun stuff. I just drop fun stuff. On Sunday, we do have Andrea from Journals for Breakfast coming and joining us in a live stream. She's going to be on there doing a little tutorial about watercoloring, and then talking about journaling and just the creative side that she brings to her journal practice. So we would love to see you over there. It drops at noon Pacific Standard Time is when I have my live streams, and I'm very excited to introduce her to my community here on YouTube, to you gals that come and watch my stuff here, because, well, I'm a fan of hers. I'm a big fan of hers, and I think that she has a lot to add to the conversations that I like having here on my channel. And so then I will be back on Monday, my regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be dropping a new topic, a new conversation for us to think about and journal about and reflect on. Okay, so thank you for joining me today. Until next time, from one paper girly to another, bye.